All right, so for today, in today's notes, we are working on partitioning a directed line segment. And, yeah, it's kind of what we're doing, and you'll find out here in a minute. Okay, so what page? This one should be 23?
Yeah.
23 here, then that makes this one right here 22. You don't have this one? You don't have this one yet? Okay, I'm sorry. Master hasn't passed it out yet, so. All right, so anyway, so let's go through and work this out. So there's a couple things that I need to add to this from the notes which are not on the slide. So I need you guys to actually follow along for a couple things. So first, my point A. My point A is going to be -4 and -3. Point B is 4, 1.
Question.
Yes?
Never mind.
Okay. So now, given that, I have a couple things that I need to know. So it's the slope of the graph line is the ratio of the rise over the run. Okay? So slope of this, rise over run. Now, rise is basically what we're saying for my delta y, and the run is my delta x. Delta refers to the change, right? So the change in y. So if I'm looking at this, my change in y is, how far is it from -3 to +1? 4, right? So that's going to be 4 over delta x. What is the change? How far apart are -4 from +4? 8. Which reduces to 1 over 2. All right? So we're going to actually use these numbers right here for this. So if I were to ask you of the slope of this, you would say 1/2, right? Yes? Okay. Now, we read a graph from left to right. Same way you read just about everything. Going from left to right. So, if I think about this going from left to right, is this going up or going down? Up. This is going up, so therefore this graph is positive. If it's going down, the slope is negative. Okay, so that makes sense, right? Okay, so a couple things that we're going to look for is, instead of the midpoint, we have to find a point that partition or cuts AB into a ratio of 1 to 3. Okay, we did ratios already. What part am I looking for? Okay, I'll give you a hint. I'll even highlight it here for you. You're always going to look for this in the ratio. It's always that first one, the first number. So, what part am I looking for? Say 1. Thank you. I'm looking for 1. Okay. How many total parts are there? I heard it. Loud and clear. How many parts total? How many parts are here? 1 here, and there's 3 here. So how many total parts? 4. Okay. Now, if you ever have confusion about this, so each one of you guys are broken up into groups of 4 people. You know, when I pass out the boxes, you guys got 4 people per box. Okay, so if you look around, okay, in your little group of 4 people, okay, 1 out of those 4 did not do their homework last night. So the ratio would be 1 did not do that, and 3 did, right? That's what the ratio would mean. It's a comparison. So 1 out of the total. Make a little sense? Hopefully a little bit. Okay. So we have this one right here. And this is going to be what I'm looking for out of this. Now we're going to come over here. So we're going to fill out this. So run is the same as my delta x. And rise is my delta y. So my delta x was how much? 8. Very good. So I'm going to have 8 right here. What was my delta y? 4. Okay, so I need that. So, it says right here, multiply your fraction times the run. Okay, what did we say the run was? My delta x, 8. Very good. So I'm going to put an 8 right there. Multiply your fraction times the rise. My rise is 4. Okay. Since their new points is moving from point A, since we always read left to right, we read from left to right, so that means that whenever I do this, I always have to start on my point to the left. Okay, I always start from the point from left. So, the coordinates, so since I'm going to do with my x values here, okay, since our new point is moving from A, we must add our new numbers to the A coordinates. So my x value was -4. Plus, now, what I'm going to do here is I have to multiply this number right here. This is actually what I got times my x value. What was my delta x? Say 8. Okay, so 1/4 times 8. So I get 2. So -4 plus 2. -2. Now for my y values, I do the same thing, but instead of using delta x, I use delta y. So it's going to be, so it starts off with -3 plus 4 times 1/4. What is 4 times 1/4? 1. -3 plus 1. Now, let's see, my new point. My new point here would be -2, comma, -2. So on my line, -2, -2 would be right here. I would label that one my P. That is my P for my partition line segment. Alright, so let's take a look at my steps. So my steps of this is step 1, graph or draw a line. Step 2, ratio to fraction. So it's the part over whole. Okay. Step 3, find delta x and delta y. Step 4, multiply delta x and delta y by the fraction and step 5, add new numbers to starting point. Okay, anyone need me to read that over again? All right, you guys ready? Okay, so I'll give you some more time if you guys need to copy this. And I'm going to show you guys how to actually do it a little bit more simplified than this. Okay, a little bit more simplified than this. So on example 1, so we're going to graph these right here. So A is -2. I'm sorry, -1, 2. So -1, 2. There's my A. My B is at 7, 14. That's going to put me right there. There's my step 1. And I'm going to finish my triangle. So finish the triangle. So it's always going to be a triangle. Always, always, always makes a triangle. And what type of triangle does that make anyway? Can someone tell me that? Yes, it is a right triangle. It is never a wrong triangle. So this is my point B. All right, you guys ready? This is the abbreviation of the notes. So if you follow this, it makes all of this right here make sense. Okay, so we have these values, right? Okay, so next thing I'm going to do. What is my delta x? Let's see. How far is -1 from 7? 8. Comma. Delta y. How far is 2 away from 14? It's 12, right? Okay. Now, my starting point here is what? Over here at A, isn't it? Okay, so now this is what we're going to do. I'm going to set up my problem. So it's going to look a whole lot like this. So the x value for A is, so I have -1 plus. Now, I'm going to put a parentheses right here because we're going to put in some values. So let's take a look. What is my fraction? If my ratio is right here, my ratio is going to be what? My ratio is 3/5, so my fraction is what?
3/8.
3/8, very good. 3/8. Do you guys see where that came from?
Yeah.
It's right here because it's 3, this is what I'm looking for, out of the total 8. 3/8 times. Since this is going to be my x coordinate, what do I have to multiply my fraction by? 8. Very good. Close the parentheses. Comma. Because all this is going to be my x coordinate. Now, let's start with the y. What is my y that I'm going to start with? What was my y value? It's 2 because it's from my starting point, right? So from my starting point, it's going to be 2 plus parentheses. I'm going to put in some numbers there. What is my fraction? 3/8 times. What number goes next? 12, because that's my delta y, isn't it? Close right here. So now, if I was paying attention and did this correctly, I will be able to put it in my handy-dandy calculator. If my handy-dandy calculator turns on. There we go. Okay, so here it is. So when I'm putting this in the calculator, I'm only going to put the x values. Okay, so I'm only going to put this right here. Okay, so it's going to be -1, plus parentheses 3 over 8 times 8, close. We're just doing the x value. That's all we're doing, just for the x value. Hit enter. My number's 2. So my x value here is 2, comma. Now we're going to do the same thing for the y value. 2 plus parentheses 3 over 8 times 12, close. Now watch this. It goes control, let's just go enter right here, and it comes up giving me 13 over 2. I know you guys are all doing this right now, right? So you see how it gets 13 over 2. What if I don't want the fraction? What do I do to get rid of the fraction? Control enter. Very good. So just hit control enter. So my 13 over 2 is actually just 6.5. So my y value is 6.5. And there is my point. And what did I say we call this point? What do we say we call this point? If it was a midpoint, I would call it M. But this is not the midpoint. It is a partition line segment. We call it P, right? Yeah. It's usually just P. So my point here is going to be 2, 6.5. So if I go over to 2, let's see, 1, 2, and I follow this up, it's actually exactly right there. And I label it, it is going to be my point P. Okay, so let's go through and fill out this other information. So this right here is basically your abbreviated of how to do this. So when I give you this today, it looks right here, and you guys are going to do this one. Okay, so let's go through and fill out what it is. We said our rise, so our delta y is my rise was 12. Our delta x is my run, so this is 8. The part you're looking for, we said was how much? 3, very good. And what was my total? 8, very good. Multiply the fraction by the run, which was my 3 over 8 times 8. Multiply your fraction by the rise, which was my 3 over 8 times 12. So this gave me 3. This gave me, I don't know, something else. I don't know. That comes out to be like, if I reduce it, factor of 4, so that's going to be 3, 2, 3, 9 over 2, which is 4.5. 4.5. Now, we don't actually have to go through and do this every time. I'm just filling in the notes for this one right here. So from here, this is basically what we did. So we added, so there was our 3, there was our 4.5, which gave me my final answer of 2 and 6.5. So, if you notice, okay, yes, there's little prompts for everything, but the format that you guys need is just this one right here. So we took this from our first point, our starting point, and you can use this for every single time you do this. Now, I wanted you guys to take out your handy dandy, which is also going to be important, and this needs to go into the handy dandy. So, don't forget, like and subscribe. I'm going to stop this now.